The United States remains the world's most powerful country, economically, culturally, politically, and militarily. Many say it resembles an empire, from having hundreds of overseas military bases around the world to the dollar being the global reserve currency. Here's State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller being asked about the influence the US could seek to exert over Israel in order to reduce civilian casualties in Gaza.
You have so much leverage over the Israelis, and this is fundamental vision of the president. So you can use all the leverage you want, including weapons that you sell to Israel, to make sure that this plan is at least on the right path for implementation, considering we have short time between now and November.
So one thing I will say about that people often tend to forget is that Israel, like other countries in the region, is a sovereign country that makes its own decisions. The United States does not dictate to Israel what it must do, just as we don't dictate to any country what it must do. We present what we believe are the. We present what we believe are the. Good one, Matt. We present. No, I mean, but come on, yeah. We present stand-up hour in the briefing room. We present what we believe are the best proposals to achieve peace and security. And we will continue to do that, but Israel has to make its own decisions, just as every sovereign, independent country has to make its own decisions.
What did you say? What did you mean when you just said that they have to take it?
They have to. It doesn't mean that they have to take it in that we can dictate to them. What I meant by they have to take it is we can present all the options in the world. We can't control whether they take it or not.
The United States doesn't tell anyone what to do. If you didn't hear what was said off mic by one reporter there, which is of course critically important, he said, quote, "Unless you invade them." We don't dictate to anyone what to do, least of all in the Middle East. Really? So Iran can now develop nuclear energy? After all, it's a sovereign country. Is Iraq a sovereign country? After all, its government asked the US to leave for its armed forces to vacate the country. They're still there. US personnel are also in Syria. Was Afghanistan a sovereign country when it was occupied for 20 years? Was Libya a sovereign country when Gaddafi was removed with help from Western militaries? Go further back. When the Iranian nationalist Prime Minister Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh was removed by the CIA and MI6 for wanting to bring oil into public ownership, was that not telling Iran what to do? The Monroe Doctrine treats any involvement by a foreign power in the affairs of the Americas as a potentially hostile act against the United States. Why? Because only they're allowed to interfere in the politics of countries like Chile, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Honduras. That's our job, not yours. And was it recognizing the sovereignty of Vietnam when the US fought an ultimately failed war there that killed 250,000 Vietnamese? The US doesn't tell anyone what to do. That's literally the basis of US foreign policy. It's all it does, telling people what to do. Mike, this was a surreal moment, wasn't it? Because you had this incredible conflict, so jarring, so obvious that it literally made this guy laugh, between the professed claims of US foreign policy, non-interference, respect sovereignty, and the reality, which is they invade countries willy-nilly.
Quite literally, as you say, Aaron, the premise of US foreign policy is to be intrusive, is to stick their noses in when often their noses aren't required to be in the business. I think that's the whole premise. The idea that the US are the protectors of democracy, the promoters of human rights. That's the rhetoric espoused by many who believe in the US's approach to foreign policy. So it was very kind of ironic. And I think when it comes to the US and Israel, the US could be taking a far more kind of proactive approach in stopping the war on Gaza, but they're choosing not to, right? And I think the Israeli lobby in Washington is quite strong and quite vocal and quite powerful. We know that. And Biden's often done the thing that the Labour Party have done, which is he condemns rather, the attacks on Gaza and the deaths of innocent civilians, but he does so in a way that's kind of like, oh, but Israel has a right to defend itself. That's the general kind of tone of most of the liberal commentary on Israel. Israel rely quite heavily on US military aid, right? We know this. This is something that isn't a myth, isn't some kind of secret. This is well known. So the US could be taking a far more proactive role, and we know that the US in the past have taken a very intrusive approach to foreign policy. So they pick and choose their moments when it suits their agenda.
So well put. the US is so assertive with this stuff when it matters, but then it's Israel, by the way, the number one recipient of US aid, huge trading relations. They're one of the very few countries the US sells F-35s to. We can't do anything. Sorry. We can't do anything. We don't invade. We don't interfere. We respect sovereignty. Were you respecting the sovereignty of the Democratic Republic of Congo when you oversaw the murder of Patrice Lumumba and his corpse was dissolved in an acid bath? Was that respecting sovereignty? But no, that on the one hand, we're respecting sovereignty. On the other hand, we can't not sell F-35s to Israel. That would be unfair. Clear double standard, clearly ridiculous.